Hello and welcome back to Assetto Corsa EVO 4 version 0.4 early access, which includes 4 new tracks: Oulton Park, Road Atlanta, Monza, and of course the Nurburgring, although I guess that's 5 tracks because you have the Nurburgring GP circuit and the Nurburgring Nordschleife itself, so perhaps we should call it 5 tracks, and a whole raft of cars, this being one of them, the GT4 RS, the 718 Cayman, alongside the Mini Cooper, the Renault 5, the old one that is, the Peugeot 205 T16, the Ferrari F40 LM, the Ferrari Daytona SP3, and the Ferrari SF25, which is this year's Formula 1 car, which I am not going to be taking out for a drive because, well, I think that Leclerc and Hamilton tomorrow, so this video is coming out on a Saturday, so after tomorrow they are probably going to be throwing that car in the bin, so I probably won't be driving it. I might just give it a go at some point just to see what Kunos have done with F1 cars. But yes, so we have those cars. I think I'm missing one. We'll have a look after the intro. But also, on top of that, we have an improved UI system, which is important. I'll have a look at how that looks. We have improved tyres and physics, and that is a big thing because in version 0.3, one of my biggest complaints, and a lot of people's complaints, was that something was not right with the tyres. So we're going to start with this particular vehicle. I'm going to be taking this one out over to the Nurburgring Nordschleife, throw it around, then I'll grab another car, maybe 2 or 3 cars, throw them all around and see just how the physics now operate. Also, you may have noticed, I have not made a video in Assetto Corsa EVO since version 0.3 beta, and the simple reason for that was I had no force feedback. So I made that video, it was absolutely fine. A couple of days I did some testing, I think maybe over a week, and then I went to record and I lost force feedback and nothing I did could bring it back. At this point in time, I've actually unplugged everything but my steering wheel from the USB ports, and my keyboard, of course, keyboard and mouse, from the USB ports on my computer, so that I can actually use the force feedback, and it seems to have come back, so that is great, although that means that something is very wrong. Hopefully this problem does not reoccur and I am able to make more videos, so make sure you stay tuned. Let's get started before anything else goes wrong, and let's see what 0.4 is like to drive, and more importantly, let's see if I can remember how to drive on the Nordschleife. Now, to probably feel the most out of this car, I'm going to put it on road tyres. Let's see exactly how that ends up feeling. Okay, I also need to have a look at, so I did a little bit of testing beforehand, and I think you can see that I've unplugged everything. I don't even have a T500 RS gear shifter. I have no idea what that is, and I have no idea what that is, and I have no idea why I have 3 Fanatec wheels either. One of the things that I do think I need to do is drop all of this out because I have a direct drive wheel. So I think we're going to do that and see what happens. So I was doing a little bit of testing and I could feel actually there's something else I need to bump up, and that's curb effects. There we go. Going to try that and see what it's like. So here is the new UI, which actually looks fairly good, or HUD, whatever you want to call it. Looks fairly good in... that feels a bit light. That's somewhat concerning. Oh no, there's feel. There we go. Okay, let's switch traction control off. So we have a nice map. We have at the top we've got flags, temperature, all of that sort of stuff, which is lovely. We've got I still think on the right hand side, I still think the quality of the tachometer is not great. So yes, that could do with some improvement. Well, that feels pretty good. Much better than that feels much better than before. And also, interestingly enough, this is the very first time I have ever felt this. I believe I have full force, Fanatec full force in this particular sim. So there is an option for True Force, which is, or Logitech's True Force, which is audio-based effects. And I thought, well, let me see what happens if I have that at 100%. And I can feel the engine revving through my steering wheel. It's subtle, it's interesting, but it is there. And it's not just that, there appears to be some fine road surface textures as well that I can feel through the wheel. I'm not entirely certain how to explain it at the moment, but that is what it is. Right, I know Foxhole Curve has changed. I can no longer clatter over the top of it, and I have to be wary of that, because after well over a decade of clattering over the top of that curb, I have to learn not to do that. So, impressions of the feed well. We'll get to the physics and feedback in a minute. Impressions of some of the things that have improved. So there has been some visual improvement, and I found a post, I think it was on Reddit. I found a post where somebody said that if you disable the filmic anti-aliasing entirely, things get clearer, and I'll show you this in the replay if I remember to do so. So to start with, that is a lot nicer. Also, things appear to be a little bit better optimized apparently. I'm getting some slight popping in places, and it isn't a perfect 60 FPS in the way that I've got it currently set up, which is, it's fine. But there is still some optimization to come. Noises, audio, since we're in this area where it's echoing, the reverb is interesting, but I think there needs to be a little bit more to it. It didn't sound like it was echoing exactly. It sounded like there was that reverb, but the echo, I think there needs to be a bit more to it. A bit more maybe delay, not volume. I think the volume was good, but perhaps a bit more in the way of delay. And you can see I've already taken this car out for a drive, although with different force feedback settings and different tyre settings. That's how I knew that this car had supercar tyres, and I wanted to bring it down to road tyres, just so that I can get a better feel for how this car drives. And in all honesty, this feels a lot better, far, far better than 0.3 did in the few days that I managed to have it running without it actually failing with the force feedback. Now this is still a little, I think there's a little bit too much strength to the force feedback in certain areas, but this isn't terrible. I might just tune it down a few percent. Just trying to get a better feel for how this car is driving, and really now I'm looking at the whole physics changes. So I'm trying to work out what physics changes are making are making the difference, both to the feedback and to how the tyre is behaving. I've learnt that that appears to have moved, so that outside curb appears to have now moved, the one that I've aimed for well over a decade. And so I'm going to have to get used to that. One of the things that I think I'm going to have to get used to is this version of the Nordschleife, which is the most up-to-date version, is different. It isn't that there are differences between this version and the version I have been driving thousands of laps on. And I do mean, I think I've clocked in well over 1,000, maybe 1,500 laps in various different cars over the years on that version. This version is different because there are bumps. I can feel bumps that I could never feel before. I can see bumps that I could never see before. So that's very, very interesting. But on top of all of that, there are subtle changes to the curbs as well. There's subtle changes to my references. Trees, for example. Some of the trees are in, well, actually a lot of the trees are in slightly different locations, and I used to use some of them as references. I cannot do that anymore. So that is something. Some of these markers have changed. Some of the marks on the floor have obviously changed as well. So I need to look for, effectively I'm going to be looking for new references. That's what I have to do. I have to look for new references. I kind of also want to drop my steering a bit. Force feedback, that is. Let me quickly do that so I can get a second lap in this. Just going to drop it. I think 5% should be all right. Nothing too severe. There we go. Alrighty. The skybox is a bit problematic, I'd say. It doesn't look great. And actually I can see a tear in the skybox as well, maybe where, I guess that's probably where it has its repeat, its wraparound. I have no idea what lap time that was, but I'm going to say that this car is pretty good. What I'm feeling here is still some inherent understeer that I'm not sure is meant to be present. There is some inherent understeer, and I can, I guess I'm not going to be doing much because I've just bent my, I've damaged my car, so that's that done. I can feel some inherent understeer, as I said, in the vehicles, or in this vehicle, that I'm not sure should be there. So I'm trying to work out how that feels. I'm getting a black and orange flag for car in a dangerous condition. That's interesting as well. I can see the flags flying, and I can see it at the top as well, that my car is in a dangerous condition. So that's pretty good. Although that being said, I can still drive the car at a relatively... Oh, it's difficult. It is difficult, but I'm managing. Which is dangerous, of course, but this is a sim, and I want to test it. Yeah, there it goes. That's where you get caught out with damage on the vehicle. Okay, that's not bad. Let's have a quick look at a replay. And in fact, you'll see how much clearer things are. So that is just by switching off the filmic anti-aliasing and FXAA as well, which is the fast approximation anti-aliasing. So switching those two off appears to help quite a bit. But yes, what I'm feeling on that lap was the car felt a lot better. I could catch the oversteers better. I could feel more as to what the car was doing, which is really nice. But at the same time, there felt like there was still this inherent understeer. The brakes the car appeared to be a little too, I wouldn't say sharp on the brakes, but it wouldn't lock up on the brakes. Obviously it has ABS. It just felt like I could brake a little bit later than I was expecting for a few cars, and I think that might be something to do with the fact that maybe there's a little bit too much grip, and that might also be what's causing this slight inherent understeer in this car, which I was not expecting to be experiencing understeer in this car. The other thing that I think is quite good is that catching the oversteer, the car no longer just randomly snaps on you. That's one thing I've found. It doesn't seem to be snapping on me randomly. For example, it could have snapped randomly. It doesn't do that. On the other hand, whilst it doesn't do that, it does have a more progressive push into the oversteer that can be felt and can be caught, which previously you had no feeling of. So the oversteer is still there, and that oversteer mechanic and feeling is still there, or the happening is still there, but you can feel it, and that's pretty good. I'm not sure, I haven't tested this, I haven't pushed this all the way. Maybe there might be a limit where it's still not great to when it's under certain loads. That camera is really bad. Maybe under certain loads it won't be great, but so far that's promising. It's just this odd understeer that still appears to be present, nowhere near what it was before. Before it just felt you couldn't get the car to slide around. You'd have to force a car that should be able to get the back end sliding. You used to have to try and force it to get the back end sliding. Now, for a car like this, it does appear to let go more naturally. So that is good. And it doesn't just snap really suddenly. So that is good as well. But at the same time, it still pushes outwards. So that isn't great. Sounds are pretty decent on this. Should we go to a different car? I think we should. Yeah, we'll exit without saving. Go to main menu. I think this is coming out on a Saturday. I did mention Leclerc and all of that stuff, but it depends. Another vehicle I have purchased. So we'll try it out at the Nordschleife. Yes, I've tried to match the colours. I've got it slightly off, but that's, wait, I can just customise it and get it. Let's just get it right. It's about there. There we go. Probably a little bit darker than that, but it's okay. No, it still needs a bit more blue. Okay, that's fine. It doesn't matter. This is the M3 CSL, so this should be interesting to drive. I've done a bit of driving on this as well, and similarly with this, I found a lot of understeer. Now, I'm not 100% certain. I'm going to try it again with the force feedback now tweaked more to my liking, but I'm going to see what it does. It might be a lot better. It might not. But again, this is what this video is for. So if we go to vehicle setup, just make sure it has the right right tyres. You've got options of road and supercar on this. Obviously, it's going to be road tyres. We'll just do a lap or two. Ignition's pretty good. Clutch. I did want to check clutch, but I don't think I've got the right... I don't have the right mode for... that's ignition. I don't have the right car for clutch. Now, I do have something about changing modes. So we have performance modes that we can change through. So in this case, we've got normal and... well, now I cannot go into... bother. I cannot go into the performance mode because I haven't actually mapped it. Well done. I thought I'd mapped a cycle. Again, this is learning. Performance mode. Performance mode next. Now I want a cycle. Is there no way to cycle that? I thought there was a way to cycle between these modes. Display device cycle. No, I want performance mode cycle. Okay. Do that, and I'm going to have to get rid of the page display. Yeah, I'm going to have to get rid of that binding. That doesn't matter for now. When I drive an F1 car, I'll probably do that. Right, so now so you'll notice that in normal mode, it gives you ESC. Sports Plus, you'll notice that in the bottom right, switches it off, and then I'll switch traction control off as well. And let's give this one a whirl, shall we? Switch on some lights for this as well. So this is of course an older vehicle. Sounds pretty good. I'm expecting it to not be quite as compliant as the Porsche, which was quite excellent actually. Although I will be honest, this one feels strangely heavy. But I don't know much about the M3 CSL, but this feels a bit heavier. This feels more sluggish as well. Not in terms of acceleration, just in terms of turning. That's something to consider. I like the little 7-segment display that you can barely see telling me what gear I'm in. That's pretty cool. This also has the understeery feeling. Yes, this also seems to have that understeery feeling. I can definitely feel it. Shifting down gear and you have a snap of oversteer. That was intentional to see what would happen. Responded quite well, and I immediately felt it and was able to respond to it. So it's responding to it. So being able to do that's pretty good. Brakes are very strong, and this is something I've found with both vehicles. Like way stronger than I think they should be. But you stamp on the brakes and they bite. They really, really bite. And I'm not sure that's all too realistic. I think whatever grip values they've got, maybe some sort of baseline grip or something. I think I remember reading something in the changelog about higher baseline grip. I think that might be a little bit too high now. That was not intentional. Seems like going down to second, this car just likes to jolt. Which is not, in fact, it does it in third as well. Interesting. Is that how it's supposed to be? Oh, that sounds a bit tinny. That's not a great sound. That reverb sounds very tinny. We're going to hear it again. That's mainly intake noise, I think. Now, I do know that these BMWs do sound a little like that, but I think that's a little bit too... Like, there's an odd drone under it that I can hear that's not ideal. Okay. I mean, so far it's not... It's so much better than version 0.3. It really is, and I think I could find myself playing this a lot more. The force feedback still is a bit odd. I think I need to try and tune it a little bit more. It does feel a bit odd. Full force is not giving me everything that I'm after. That was a bit too slow. Should have been doing about 160 kilometers per hour through there, it's about 100 miles an hour. Now under ABS you do start feeling the grip going. This car does not appear to be stepping out as much as I thought it would. I was expecting this car to start wanting to step out every time I trod on the accelerator, but it doesn't appear to want to do that. That's an odd one. I stay off that green stuff because I know that's slippery. Although I don't know how slippery it is in here, but I know it's slippery. It's a slippery surface. That one is a given. Also, is that... I'm just looking at the tachometer. Is that lighting up in the wrong direction? I really don't know. I've never really looked at one of those. The way it's lighting up, it's lighting from 7 or from 7.5 to 4. Is that what it's supposed to do? Is it supposed to be in the opposite direction? I guess actually looking at how it's coloured, maybe it is supposed to do that. It's just a bit odd. I'd expect it to light up in the opposite, but I guess if it lights up to the middle, then it's easier to spot. Maybe that is why. Good little chirp there as the tyres leave the ground and then catch again whilst I'm on the brakes. So that's a very good little chirp. You have to be very careful on the brakes there. Okay. Starting to get more of an understanding here of how this drives. Being able to feel all the little bumps in the road, that's really good. And I'm noticing things like on the sides of the roads, there's all these little markings on the floor, for example. There's different references that I need to look at. For one of the references I can see some sort of black markings on the curbs. I'm not sure if they're markings or drains or something, but there appear to be these markings or black gratings or something. Maybe it is a drain or on the curbs that are quite easy to spot, and I might need to start looking at using those as some sort of reference as opposed to the trees. But then I guess if those drains move, then the trees have a better chance of using a tree as some sort of a marker than a drain, I guess, because if they move the drain, then that's all going to change, isn't it? Any over here to point out? No. So this would be me starting my proper lap. Should I try and actually get a lap on the board? Be interesting. There's hardly any oversteer in this car when you actually put your foot down, and that's odd. The only time I get oversteer is when I downshift, and I'm not sure that's supposed to be happening either. I'll be honest. Unless I'm supposed to be blipping the throttle every time. That could be a thing. Maybe that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Possibly. I have absolutely no idea. I've never driven a CSL in real life, so I wouldn't know. Just trying to rework some of my points, my turn-in points, my markers. I'm looking at marshal boxes or marshal posts and things like that, lighting and all of those sorts of things to try to rework it. There's some understeer. That's a lot of understeer. That's a crash. Ooh. I guess every time I try and actually put a lap together, I end up crashing. This is interesting. That's what kind of damage have we? I mean, it's a bit of damage. I was expecting the lights to be smashed. That would be nice. It'd be nice to see if the lights were smashed. I didn't realise there's a bulb in there. Maybe I should put my hazards on. Hold on. Bear with. There we go. I've made a mistake. Now they appear to be flashing like LEDs, but not quite. They don't seem to quite have the right brightness. Actually, they're all right. Yeah, they're all right. Maybe I should do a bit of a replay with this car smashed up. There is definitely some understeer in this that I do not think should be there. That's what I've gathered so far. I do like that noise every time it changes gear. That's pretty nice. The intake, I think. See, so that only happens when I'm downshifting. Apart from that, this car is pretty understeery, and that does not, to me, that does not seem right for an M3, especially a competition or CSL, whatever this one is. Sounds are pretty good. Again, there's something slightly tinny about it, which it's not that nice. But overall, they're pretty good. Maybe a rebalance of certain bits of audio might be needed at the back from the exhaust. Now, I'll be honest, this understeer was probably me going a little bit too quickly. I think that's just going too quickly and then not being able to do anything. But one of the other things that apart from that bit, which should have been a much bigger smash, that felt quite realistic. So that's nice. The realism there was pretty good. So I do appreciate that. Could do with some better gravel here instead of just a gravel texture. Maybe they'll add some proper gravel to this. That would be pretty good. Yep. Exit. Let's go back to the main menu and let's now buy a car. Now, one of the disappointments of that BMW, actually, or another disappointment of that BMW, was that the only thing I could change on it was the colour and the colour of the wheels. I could not find anything else to change on that vehicle. The Porsche, however, had so many options. And so what I'm now going to do is I'm just going to jump to another vehicle and see if see how many options it has. Let's take a an actual manual vehicle to finish this video. Ferrari. For some reason I was looking for a yellow background. I have no idea why. Let's take the LM and ooh, there are quite a few design options. I mean, this is a race car, but it is going to be manual, I'm hoping. This is going to sound brutal. That's well, everyone should know that design. I do not think I even need to say anything about that design. There should be some branding right there. That design, I've seen it, but I'm not familiar with what it was for. I don't know whether it was for Le Mans. This design I'm very familiar with, but I'm just going to go for... Ooh, let's just go for a plain red one and see what options we have. That's it. Well, that's a bit disappointing. What if I go to this one? Do I have options for each stripe? No. That's disappointing. Okay, well, in that case, I guess we're just going to grab this one. You cannot even put a number in it. In fact, no, I'm just going to grab the blank one, add that to the cars, and let's go see exactly what this is like to drive. This still takes a while, for some reason. But there we go. Back to the Nordschleife, why not? It's a good testing ground. Now I'm expecting this to be quite difficult to drive. I'm expecting it to spin a lot. I'm expecting to really struggle with this. And if I find that this is very understeery, then that's going to be a concern too. But let's find out. Fuel and strategy. Slicks or wet? Oh, let's go for slicks. Okay, so I'm expecting some amount of understeer because it's on a slick tyre. That is a... Okay, well, that's a race car. That's a very loud race car. Right, how's the clutch? Is the clutch any better? The answer to that is no. As soon as I go there, the clutch, it dies. They really, really need to fix that. Okay. Yeah, this is bad. There we go. Just trying to figure it out. It turns well. It's also brutal. Oh, it's very good. It's very, very good though. Now this would be an interesting car to drive in VR. This would be incredibly interesting to drive in VR. Do I have a helmet on? I think I do. Also, why do I not have gloves on with this vehicle? Very direct steering. Very direct steering. Still... Now there is still some... I can still feel it. And please, if you've tried this and you disagree, please leave it in the comments box. Do you think that this is... that understeer is something, or is it not? Do not cut. See, my mind went straight to cutting and then realised, no, I cannot cut. That's not something I can do. was expecting more of the... I was expecting a bit more violence from the vehicle. There isn't. Brakes are really good. Again, I think the brakes are too strong on all the vehicles at the moment, and that might just be a byproduct of the tyres being too grippy. There's a first tiny little snap, but otherwise this car is actually relatively easy to drive. And I was not expecting that. I was expecting it to be really quite difficult. Interesting. Very, very interesting. I will say that between this and AC Rally, I think Kunos have basically got themselves in a position where in a few months' time they could be possibly market leaders. I think they could be market leaders in a lot of things. They just have to make sure they get this right. Assetto Corsa has had let's be honest, it's had a bit of a rocky start. The start really was not great for Assetto Corsa EVO, that is. Whereas Assetto Corsa Rally has had a fantastic start, but now this is really, like, in my opinion, this should have been the version 0.3, not what was released. I think what was released was too problematic. Oh, clatter, clatter, clunk, clunk, clatter, clatter. I think that was just a bit too clunky. This is not. I really should try that green curb out and see what it's, or the green whatever it is. It's not really grass. I don't know what. I need to find out what they call that. And just when I thought it couldn't bite, it bit. I need to go again. I have to go again with this car. That was very, very good. Back to pit lane. Make sure I've got fuel on board, because I don't know if it resets the fuel. Yes, it does. In fact, let me put more fuel on board. Right. Let's drive again. So, clutch, poor. Clutch is still poor. Really, really poor. Let's put full beams on as well. Yeah, the clutch physics are, it's basically on or off still. Which is odd, because I'm sure that in version... Ooh, there's a bit of a stutter there. In version 0.1, I'm almost certain that I had a better clutch setup. The other thing I'm going to point out about this car is that, or about all of this, is it doesn't feel, I think this is a field of view thing, because I haven't set it up quite correctly. You approach things a lot faster. You do seem to approach corners, or it's just that appearance of approaching corners a lot faster. Now there still is a little bit. I can feel some understeer. It isn't a lot. It's just a small amount, but it's enough to throw you off on certain vehicles that, hang on, it shouldn't be quite doing what it's doing. for example, that BMW, it seemed quite, unless that's really how that BMW operates, it seemed quite obvious that that's not what that BMW should be doing. Remember to stay away this time from that curb. Well, it sort of messed up my line through everything else. That's okay. I'm finding myself having to readjust, find new references, figure out the lines, figure out new lines, and it's very interesting. Also, I'm getting distracted by the signage and the backfire. I think I saw a sign, something about motorbikes, just a few seconds back. It certainly looked like it. Maybe it's just be aware of motorbikes, or motorbikes do not overtake in this area, or something. There it is, there's another one. Oh. When the wheels lock, they do lock. That much is for certain. You do just tend to go straight on. So that's cool. That's very good. And this car sounds fantastic. It truly does. And I will have to end this video, we will do a replay from the outside. The dash on this car is really nice as well. Very bare bones. Just get on with it. And I do appreciate that dashboard in that style. I do wonder what all of these white markings on the floor are on the sides. Are they, I don't know whether they're reference markers for turn-ins or what. That may be, oh dear. Maybe they used to mark, I'd say to mark apices, but I don't think they are on all the apices, are they? Oh no, they are. They are on apices. Okay, no, they're not, because that wasn't. Somebody's probably going to comment and say it's apexes. It's both. Just to let you know, you can say apexes. It should be originally it's apices, just like vertices, vertex and vertice, but apexes is fine as well. I don't see any problem personally with that. But yes, I tend to call them apices, sometimes apexes, but apices generally. That's a complete aside. I'm trying to figure out what they are. Okay, should I try and go on that green? No. I'm still missing it because I'm taking this a little bit more gently through this area now, where I obviously spun out last. Almost did it again there. The sounds of this car are brilliant. I could drive this car for a very, very long time. That's another one that I'm really trying to work out. Just about hear the crowd there. I was never good at this corner anyway. I don't know how many years I've been doing it and I still mess it up. Notably, I tried playing this in Gran Turismo 7 and I found myself really struggling. In that corner in particular, I just could not get it. Sky definitely needs improvement. Now I'd say visually the sky's definitely the weak point. I can definitely see those rips and tears in the actual texture now. Almost made the oh. Okay, that's telling me to shut my mouth. Do not say I've almost made a lap when you still have a few corners left to go, in which you can have a colossal accident. This is a bit of a workout. I will say that. I'm probably running about 10 Newton meters at the moment of torque. Okay. Here we go, pushing the vehicle. This is great. This one's really, really good. It does, as I said, there is still that slight understeer. I can feel it on this, but with the slick tyres, it grips. It just grips. It's much harder to tell. It's really strange how I learnt how to heel and tow in... So I learnt how to heel and tow in Gran Turismo 5. And all these years later, I do it in this. But heel and tow is Gran Turismo 5, I learnt how to do it. And from there, I translated that into my real life driving. I do it in real life driving as well, depending on Mr. Gear. I guess that's a possibility. See there, that I feel like where I lost the car, it sort of gripped back up faster than maybe I think it should have. I'm not entirely certain, I'll be honest. What I'm supposed to do is stop this and end this video. That is what I'm supposed to be doing. I guess that's a kind of a good... I guess that's a good thing when you're recording a video and you think, no, I want to try and continue and one more lap, you know, just one more lap. Try and do one more, try and get one more sector. Just try and improve one more corner. Very quickly before I end, about the interface as well. I do like the new tyre display. That's better than the old one. So that's quite good. I do appreciate that. And it's just very easy to read. So they have been improving the displays. Definitely. There is supposed to be a time delta one as well, but because I've not actually, this is basically the first lap, it's not going to show up. But that, I'm assuming that's going to be either in the middle, underneath where it says practice currently, or it's going to be above the track map, because those would be the logical places to put a time delta. That feels a little bit better in here than it ever has in Assetto Corsa the first, which is interesting. Still a bit of that popping, as you may have seen with the detail on the side of the hill. It is just maybe just a touch easy to catch, unless that is just what this car is like. I do not know. Maybe that is just the nature of this car. The CSL felt wrong. I'll say that much. This one, what can I say? There's not much I can say about it. It's loud. It's raucous. It's violent, and yet somehow I'm managing to wrestle it around. At no point have I actually been looking at the kind of speeds I've been doing. So I'm now looking at the dash, 260, 270 kilometers an hour. Whatever that is in English units. Oh, that's about 110 miles per hour right through that. That was 120. We're coming up to 100 and back down. That's 120 again. Doing calculations, going around this at 54 miles an hour, apex speed. I don't know why I'm doing these maths calculations in my head. Down to 50. Just under 50 through all of this, and out we go. Back up to 120. So it isn't, it's not an incredibly fast car. I mean, it's fast, but I think it's just very old and visceral, and that makes it more interesting. In a way, it reminds me a little bit of the Maserati MC12 GT1. Is that what it was? I think that's what it was called. The transition through this feels more natural in here than it did in the first Assetto Corsa as well. Not entirely certain what it is about that transition. Missed the apex by quite a few feet there. Try and get this a little bit better. That's better. Just a little. I've got to be careful here. See, this seems a bit tighter than I'm used to it being. This car is so loud I cannot hear the chirp, so I'm not going to worry about that. Come on. Come on. Even this curve seems just a little bit tighter than what I thought it would be. Into the mini carousel. At every bump, this car is very stiff, so every single bump you really feel, and I think that's great. I'm just looking at I'm looking at the carcass temperatures as well, and looking at the surface temperatures, the carcass temperatures. That's pretty good. I think that's it just shows how we're cornering, getting up towards what, 180 miles an hour. That's about 180, I think. So again, not the fastest, but it's pretty fast. It's definitely pretty fast. That will do for the lap. 7 minutes 11. See, that didn't feel. So I've done a 6 minute something before in a Zonda, and that felt a lot more violent, I would say. Let's save that. Let's actually look at that. Let's watch that second lap to end this video. So okay, so I've done some testing, and now I've driven this for another hour on camera. What do I see? What are my thoughts? It's so much better. So much better than version 0.3. You need to dial in your force feedback a bit. I'm not sure I've got it quite right. I think some of the feelings are a little bit strong. Some of them need to be dialed back. Some of them need to be dialed up. So I'll work on that. Full force is, or true force, whatever it is, depending whether you've got Logitech or Fantasy, well, it's there. I can feel it. I'm not sure how much information it's giving me yet. I can feel the road, I can feel the engine. I think it's more just a little bit of immersion as opposed to anything else. So, not quite necessary, but it's nice to see the first title actually using it. It's an interesting feeling. That is for sure. So I wasn't using all of the curb. In terms of how the cars are driving, I think catching slides is so much easier. The cars feel a bit more progressive. It's no longer sudden snap. Certain cars still appear to be understeering. M3 CSL for one you can still get the vehicle oversteering in a much more, I think, realistic fashion than what I was trying to do in version 0.3, which was very difficult to get a car to step out. But there's also this inherent understeer in the tyre, which I think is just down to a little bit too much grip, both laterally and longitudinally, which is also giving you brakes that are a lot stronger than you might think. So I'm able to brake a touch later, and I feel like I can hit the brakes harder as well, and it will still be okay. That's an interesting grating along the side. So those are sort of in an hour and a half or so of testing, hour 45 minutes in total. Those are my thoughts. Graphically it looks much better, it is optimized. Some of the level of detail bits need to be worked on. It would be interesting, so for example, this looks pretty good. The sky is now probably the limiting factor on the graphics at the moment. This car in particular is brutal, and it's really great to drive. The Porsche's lovely. The M3 felt, as I said, not quite right. I'll try out the other cars as well, probably on camera in the next video, and the different circuits. The Nordschleife is the same, yet different. There are these little bumps and little, not ruts, but bits of camber here and there, and things are different. And I have to relearn a lot of bits. I need to relearn my braking points, my turning points slightly off. But I'm getting there. I think I am getting there after a few laps, so that's pretty good. Apart from that, sounds in general sound good. Could be slight improvements here and there, but overall it sounds good. It'd be nice to see dirt now being kicked up off the side. That would be nice to see, but I guess that's not really that important. More importantly, I think they need to still fine-tune some of the physics with the tyres. In terms of suspension, I think it feels a lot better. Rebound, this is a fairly stiff car. I could feel how stiff the car was as well. And cars that were a little bit more compliant, like the M3 CSL, which is still a fairly stiff car, it did feel different. It felt a little bit softer than the Porsche, which in turn felt a lot softer than this car. So that's good. That is showing that those bits have been checked and work and are working quite well. It would be interesting to see what version 0.5 brings, but before that, I am going to probably check out the rest of the cars in version 0.4 in the coming episodes, and then might try and do a bit of a race or something like that and see if the horrendous AI is any better. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to click on the like button if you like this video, subscribe to the channel for more videos on Assetto Corsa EVO and Assetto Corsa Rally. Leave a comment in the comments box below, let me know what you think. Do you agree with my statements or do you disagree? If you can do so, please do consider supporting me on Patreon, link in the description box below, as are links to my social media and Discord server. That is all from me, and I shall see you next time in Assetto Corsa EVO.